It's Thursday, September 12, 2019, and this is Globespan 24x7 News. My name is Shakima Day, coming to you live from Georgetown, Guyana. Here are the major headlines for today. Jagdeo calls for international presence at GCOM in light of delays. Felix says government still trying to end illegal departure of Haitians. Region 2 communities to get access to internet soon, Telecommunications Minister says. GTT apologized to activists over e-billing complaint to PUC, and over 8,000 lots to be handed over to the local authorities by the Central Housing and Planning Authority. We'll tell you now that a 54-year-old businessman who hails from the east coast of Demerara is currently nursing a gunshot wound to his buttocks after he was robbed by an armed bandit. The incident occurred in Babujan, Port Morant, Quarantine, earlier this morning. According to reports, the lone bandit escaped with $600,000 after attacking the man and demanding that he hand over the sum. It is believed that the man was followed. Investigations are ongoing. The opposition People's Progressive Party Civic has again highlighted its concerns over the talks ongoing at GCOM, as the party firmly believes that certain delaying tactics are being implemented. Addressing his weekly press conference, the party's General Secretary, Barra Jagdeo, said in light of this, his party would like to see an international presence at the country's election body.
Before 2014, we had international staff embedded in the commission. The APNU commissioners and the chairman, Mr. Patterson, who was there, requested help from the UN. When the UN came out with a report saying no house-to-house registration, they refused the help. The UN tried to meet with them several times, they refused to meet. And until now, that offer is still here on the table. I said to the Commission when I met with them that we must seek immediately to have an international presence for quality control in GCOM, because the way Mr. Lowenfield and some elements in the Secretariat are acting, you need another pair of eyes. They seem to reflect all the concerns of APNU every single day. In fact, going overboard to make their case.
The former Guyanese head of state claims that everyone wants an election, including members of the diplomatic community, the private sector, and the civil society.
In spite of the international community wanting elections as soon as possible, they all say that to me. The Guyanese just tired of waiting. Everybody wants it, the private sector, everyone wants to get this over with. Their lives are on the hold. Why does this corrupt geriatric cabal wants to delay the elections?
Jagdeo restated his party's position that there should be no merger of the data from the house-to-house registration and the existing National Register of Registrants. He said merging the data with the Register of Registrants would damage the integrity of the voters list. The opposition leader contends that there could be a swift verification process of the existing National Register through the claims and objections period. We'll tell you now that on Wednesday, Minister of Citizenship Winston Felix sought to lay the facts bare concerning the numbers of Haitians applying for citizenship in Guyana. Kingsley Bryan will tell you more in this report.
There has been much public outcry as of recent about the amount of foreign nationals, especially Haitians and Cubans, seemingly taking up residence in Guyana. This is a very sensitive issue, given the fact elections are to be called shortly, and the narrative of a padded voters list is becoming more popular. However, at a press conference on Wednesday, Minister of Citizenship Winston Felix debunked those claims by providing statistics on the number of naturalized Haitians in Guyana since the coalition took office.
Then in 2016, we had nationals from 34 countries. 192 persons were granted citizenship. And I am looking for your favorite persons. Haitians won in 2016. In 2015, won again. In 2017, 40 nationals from foreign countries. 40 countries with 230 nationals being granted citizenship in Guyana. Among them, 7 Haitians. 2018, 42. From 42 countries, we had 252 nationals, 3 Haitians. That's 28. For 2019 up to July, 30 countries with 30 nationals, 108 of them, 30 nationalities, 108 persons were granted citizenship up to July. 2 were Haitians.
Minister Felix noted that according to their figures released, over 8,000 Haitians arrived in the country for the year. As it relates to information about their departure, the minister said the situation remains the same for the areas which were identified as having porous borders.
Right? Yeah. And the situation is the same. If you really examine what is happening on the quarantine, right, you will suddenly discover that there is no way you could put your hand on anybody leaving backtrack because of the number of backtrack routes they have.
Felix, a former police chief, maintained that government is attempting to get a handle on the situation, but it comes with its fair share of challenges.
And that is why the backtrack on the quarantine coast has not been completely shut down, because one, we have jurisdictional issues on the sea, which is the force issue, right? And so you're limited there. If you go to the Ruperuni, that's worse yet, because it's over 1,000 miles of border.
The minister said what is being done now is a complete sweep of all vulnerable areas to ensure that all foreigners, not just Haitians, entering Guyana, leave through the legal channels. According to Felix, what is known is that the Haitians are entering, but they are not staying.
No, they're not staying here, and we know that they are leaving.
Minister Felix said aside from funding, advanced technology and a reaction force are required to effectively curb the trend of illegal departure from these shores. The Department of Citizenship has confirmed that over 8,000 Haitians have entered Guyana for the year. For Globespan 24x7 News, this is Kingsley Bryan.
Thank you, Kingsley. More communities from the Region 2 Pomeroon-Supernam area are expected to see ICT services for the first time ever by September. This revelation was made by Telecommunications Minister Kathy Hughes during a recent state radio program. More in this report. The minister noted some communities are already in receipt of access to the internet through the ministry's e-access and ICT services for Hinterland Poor and Remote Communities project.
And so, as you could see, it transforms the way we do education. That there are no longer gaps that say that because you're located in a certain part of our geographical landscape, that you would be locked out. That traditionally is what we call the digital divide, where the people on the coast tend to have access to internet, broadband, all kinds of more opportunities that maybe we don't have in the hinterland. So our policy has been to make sure that we're not leaving these regions behind.
This advancement, the minister stated, also forms part of the coalition government's objective to see that the future leaders of Guyana are given the tools needed to achieve this goal.
So the thrust of setting up and putting internet into so many of these areas, we've had to bring the technology in. This is based on the fact that, and maybe I could just explain a bit, that usually what happens is that imagine in many communities, they may have only GT&T in terms of a mobile cell phone operator, or they may have Digicel. Traditionally, in most areas, they only have one or the other, and sometimes the reception is very bad. So, for example, you go to a place like Anai, and I'm not joking, I'm absolutely serious. They will say to you, guess what? You got to go in this particular location where the landscape is slightly higher, you're right, to get the signal so you can make a call. And so what we've done is that we've brought internet as a gateway. Through the internet, you could make WhatsApp calls. You can do the same training we're talking about in education. It has the same possibilities for better health care and providing health services. So what we did is we designed a program that allows us to purchase VSAT dishes, and these are mini satellite dishes, and we set them up in communities.
The administration is working to ensure that these areas have access to the free internet, she emphasized. For Globespan 24x7 News, Shakima Day. The Housing and Planning Authority on Saturday will hand over the responsibility of the La Parfaite Harmony housing scheme along with the Good Fortune regularized squatting area to the Malgré-Tout Merzorgan Neighborhood Democratic Council, west coast of Demerara. Chief Development Planner of the CHNPA, Chairman Stewart, told the Department of Public Information that the La Parfaite Harmony housing scheme comprises of 10 sections, of which 9 will be handed over to the NDC. These sections are the Westminster, Phase 1 and 2. We will not be handing over Lust and Rust because the infrastructure is complete. End of quote. Stewart explained that recent discussions were held between the CHPA and Malgré-Tout and Merzorgan NDC, where it was agreed that the local authority would assume responsibility for these areas, and a memorandum of understanding will be signed to this effect. The CHPA officer noted that some of the infrastructural developments of La Parfaite Harmony, one of which is the rehabilitation of 29 kilometers of roads. According to Stewart, this represents 30% of the roads in the housing scheme. The remaining 70% will be completed by the CHNPA. We will now take a short break. Do stay with us for more news with Kingsley Bryan.
We would like to ask all of our faithful viewers to kindly like and follow Globespan 24x7 Facebook page and subscribe to Globespan 24x7 YouTube channel to receive up-to-date notifications of when we are live. Globespan 24x7 has vacancies for full-time positions such as reporters, newscasters, and news editors. Persons serious about joining a new and dynamic news team are asked to send their application to careers@globespantechnology.com.
Globespan GT has low prices on JetBlue non-stop service starting April the 3rd. It's non-stop flights starting from as low as $320 one way. That's non-stop flights starting from as low as $320 one way. Fly on board a brand new Airbus A321 aircraft with Wi-Fi. It's non-stop and direct. Depart at 7:20 a.m. and arriving in Guyana 1:09 p.m. Call Globespan GT in Georgetown at 227-1701. That's 227-1701. Or in Rose Hall, call 337-4287. And New Amsterdam at 333-6230. Call Globespan today.
The Ministry of Public Infrastructure has announced that the boarding bridges at the Cheddi Jagan International Airport will be temporarily suspended. This is to facilitate the continuation of expansion works at the CJIA. The suspension of the boarding bridges operation is a scheduled one, according to a press release issued by the Public Infrastructure Ministry. As such, there are no issues with the normal functioning of the bridges. We sincerely apologize for this temporary inconvenience and would like to assure you that works will be done within the shortest time possible, the ministry conveyed in its notice. The boarding bridges were put into operation in June 29, 2019. At the time, General Manager within Caribbean Airlines, Carl Stewart, welcomed the development. During December 2018, the final pair of boarding bridges arrived at CJIA to facilitate a smoother passenger commute to and from aircraft at the airport. And following today's public meeting with the Public Utilities Commission and Guyana's telephone giant GT&T, complainant Raymond Gaskin stood firm on his claim that the company should have issued a prior notice to consumers about the upcoming changes to its bill. Here are the details.
The GT&T is forcing me to take services that I don't want and I don't need. That is the whole purpose of all of this thing, to force me to do what I don't want to do. And that's why they keep me in the line for 45 minutes as a senior citizen. And the supervisor told me this got something called MMG and all this nonsense. I want my original bill, the way I used to get it. Unless the PUC approves these changes, I'm saying to you, you cannot do it. The license doesn't allow you to do things unilaterally and arbitrarily. That's why you have the PUC, that's why you have the PUC Act, that's why you have a license. You cannot do things on your own just like that and come and apologize to me. I reject all these apologies, let me tell you straight, all of them. So don't worry with apologies on me.
That was Raymond Gaskin, an outspoken commentator. Gaskin had filed an official complaint with the Public Utilities Commission regarding the new billing format introduced by Guyana's leading communication service provider, GTT. Today, in a public meeting held by the PUC, GTT had a chance to address the concerns raised by Gaskin and matters relating to the issue. According to Gaskin, these changes should have been announced to the general populace prior to implementation. Mark Reynolds, Vice President of GTT's Legal and Regulatory Affairs, acknowledged this exact point, noting that it was a fault on their behalf.
Right. So in a situation as such, while we do appreciate this, the nature of it and the fact that there should have been noted, and this is something that we apologize to Mr. Gaskin for and also to the wider public, we have been driving an educational campaign in terms to all of our customers regarding the support, the services which are to provide an outlet to get the actual particulars of the bill.
When asked by the PUC's chairperson, Della Brighton, whether sufficient research was conducted before the new system was introduced, all the answers were in the negative.
According to a letter from GT&T under the hand, I believe, of Ms. Leslie, it said that the new billing format became effective in May 2019. Is that correct? It's still. Was there sufficient notice given to the consumers as it relates to this new billing format?
In the Commission's letter to GTT, available on its website, it stated that Gaskin's bill received for the billing period May 2019 was presented in a new format. The Commission noted after examining the new bill that, on the face of it, the telephone bill does not reflect an itemized list of cellular calls and overseas calls, which would have been itemized in the previous bills, and afford consumers the ability to check and verify their activities for the preceding month. For Globespan 24x7 News, Shakima Day.
The opposition People's Progressive Party Civic has started sharing its plan for the country if re-elected to government at the next elections. General Secretary of the PPPC, Barrett Jagdeo, has indicated that this is just the beginning of great things the PPP has in store for Guyana. With elections expected to be held soon, the campaign promises are beginning to circulate. As is customary, political parties will be gearing up to launch their manifestos with their plans for the nation if elected. The PPPC has taken the brave step to publicize some of its plans. And according to the opposition leader, the party still have several more plans in the pipeline that have not yet been made public.
They have returned, and if you look at our manifesto, the popular version, which will come out sometime next week, because we want to lay out all of our plans for these various sectors and get it in people's hands very early. And then a more technical version will come out as we get closer to the election. But you will see one promise is to go back to processing duty-free concessions in a non-political fashion.
This light launch of the party's manifesto will shed more light on the developmental plans of the PPPC. Among some of their already public promises and slogans are get money flowing again, 20,000 online scholarships, free tertiary education after 5 years, reduce age limits on imported vehicles, no VAT on water, electricity, and health care. Reverse the 2 a.m. curfew. Apprenticeship and jobs for youth. Support small businesses with grants and interest-free loans. Oil money to benefit all Guyanese, and reverse the 200 new taxes and fees. Apart from the main opposition PPPC, the only other political party that has officially laid out their contract with the Guyanese people is the Liberty and Justice Party, led by former Indigenous leader Lennox Schumann. And Guyana's Gaming Authority on Wednesday held a stakeholders forum at the Herdmanston Lodge to create awareness on the importance of responsible gaming, given Guyana's changing landscape. More in this report. With the advent of a robust gaming industry in Guyana, the government and the entity responsible for the regulation of this industry, the Gaming Authority, is seeking to ensure that gaming in Guyana is regulated and is done in a responsible manner. This is taking into account the various socio-economic ills that can prevail if same is not monitored efficiently. Director General of the Ministry of the Presidency, Joseph Harmon, noted that it is government's intention to ensure responsible gaming is central in the Guyanese landscape and culture.
This will require prevention education, the awareness of gambling ills, and measures to, if not prevent, minimize underage gambling. There must be established as well support and rehabilitation programs for persons who may develop gambling disorders.
Harmon pointed out that with the present progression of Guyana, the gaming industry is also set to undergo transformation. Chairman of the Board of Directors of the Gaming Authority, Roysdale Ford, in his brief address stated that the authority is mandated to prevent irresponsible gaming.
So the responsibility is to inform on all possible adverse effects of gaming and to take steps and measures to reduce, if not eliminate, these effects. And the responsibility for the stakeholders, the customers, and the wider society as a whole. So it is our obligation to work together to ensure that the principles and standards that we would have established here minimize the possible harm and to prevent irresponsible gaming.
Ford went on to say that it is the intention of the authority not to prohibit gaming, which is a form of entertainment, but to ensure that it is a fair and legal industry in Guyana. For Globespan 24x7 News, this is Kingsley Bryan. Public Health Minister Valda Lawrence stated that her government is working towards a decriminalization of suicide in Guyana. The minister made these comments during her feature address at the World Suicide Prevention Day event held recently at the National Cultural Center.
If you're struggling or thinking about suicide, let me assure all of you that I will seek to have the repeal of Chapter 801-96 of the laws of Guyana, which criminalizes attempted suicide.
The minister stressed that to aid suicide prevention in Guyana, persons must throw aside their opinions and listen to persons who exhibit signs of suicidal thoughts.
We also have to look at those who are silent. In the words of another suicide attempt survivor, when you stop talking about your problems, she said, when you stop showing emotions or reaching out, you enter a hopeless path with no return. You need help. You realize that whenever you swore or complained, you wanted help. But when you stop acting out, your mind was already made up.
According to Chapter 801-96 of the laws of Guyana, everyone who attempts to commit suicide shall be guilty of a misdemeanor and liable to imprisonment for 2 years. Several non-governmental organizations have repeated calls for the law to be amended, but to no avail. And we tell you now a Port Morant farmer is now counting his losses after a fire completely gutted his home on Wednesday. Globespan 24x7 News understands that Deodat Tasso's house caught fire at around 17 hours. When neighbors called the fire service, it did not take long for the fire to rip through the wooden house. The 41-year-old man claims that there were several power outages during the course of the day, and that may have been the cause for the fire. The Guyana Fire Service is currently investigating the matter. Please stay tuned for your bridge reports. We will take a short break. Do stay with us for your regional international news with Whitney Passad.
JetBlue announces non-stop service from JFK to Guyana starting April 2nd. Travelspan has low prices on JetBlue non-stop service. It's non-stop flights starting from as low as $244 one-way and $491 round-trip. That's non-stop flights starting as low as $244 one-way and $491 round-trip. Fly on board a brand new Airbus A321 aircraft that is a brand new aircraft to Guyana with Wi-Fi. It's non-stop and direct. Depart at 11:55 p.m. and arriving in Guyana at 5:58 a.m. Call Travelspan at 718-845-0437. That's 718-845-0437 or book online at travelspan.com.
Amro's Travel Service is pleased to support Globespan 24x7 broadcasts. We provide travel solutions via our 4 locations in Trinidad. Chaguanas at 665-3383, Valpa 645-1604, Port of Spain 625-0800, and San Fernando at 652-4789. Remember, when you travel, Amro's is the way to go.
Thank you, Samuel. And now with the news from around the world for September 12, 2019, I am Whitney Prasad and here are the headlines. 50 dies in trail derailment in Congo. India strips 1.9 people in Assam state of citizenship. Hurricane Dorian loss estimates some $1.6 billion. Huawei's chief offers 5G know-how to Western firm. And Israel's prime minister denies the country is spying on the U.S. And now for a look at the news in details. At least 50 people were killed and several injured after a train derailed in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The country's Minister of Humanitarian Affairs told this to the CNN. The minister said the accident happened around 3 a.m. on Thursday morning. The cause of the accident remains unknown, but transport accidents involving many casualties occur frequently in Congo. According to a report, at least 24 people, mostly children, died after a train veered off the rail in a province in March. In 2017, more than 30 people were killed after another train carrying tankers of fuel plunged into the river. In India has published the final version of a list which effectively strips about 1.9 million people in the northeastern state of Assam of their citizenship. The BBC reported that the National Register of Citizens, NRC, is a list of people who can prove they came to the state by the 24th of March of 1971, the day before neighboring Bangladesh declared independence from Pakistan. People left off the list will have 120 days to appeal against their exclusion. It is unclear what happens next. It has already detained thousands of people suspected of being foreigners in temporary camps, which are housed in the state prisons, but deportation is currently not an option for the country. The process has also sparked criticism of witch hunts against Assam's ethnic minorities. A draft version of the list published last year had 4 million people excluded. Insured losses in the Caribbean from Hurricane Dorian is estimated at $3.5 billion to $6.5 billion, according to the RMS. This estimate represents insured losses associated with wind and storm surge damage across the Caribbean region, most notably in the Bahamas, which was the most severely impacted country as it is stated. RMS estimates that nearly all of the Caribbean insured losses will come from the Bahamas, particularly Grand Bahama and Abaco Islands. This loss estimate reflects property damage and business interruption caused by wind and storm surge-driven coastal flooding to residential, among others. RMS North Atlantic Hurricane Model's Senior Product Manager Jeff Waters said this is a high degree of uncertainty on the potential impact of the post-event loss amplification from the event. Nevertheless, it is expected for the Bahamas to be significant due to constrained access to the islands and damage. Bahamas Emergency Service have listed 2,500 people as missing after Hurricane Dorian struck the islands last week. This official count suggests the death toll will be much higher than the current 50. And Huawei's chief executive has proposed selling its current 5G know-how to a Western firm as a way to address security concerns voiced by the U.S. and others about its business. The CEO said the buyer would be free to change the software code that would allow any flaws or supposed backdoors to be addressed without Huawei's involvement. The US and Australia have banned their networks from using Huawei's equipment. The UK is still weighing a decision. And finally, on the international scene, Israel's prime minister has flatly denied a report that his country was spying on the U.S. A political article cites 3 former senior U.S. officials who says Israel was likely behind surveillance devices found near the White House. But a statement from the prime minister's office said this was a blatant lie. There is a long-standing commitment and a directive from the Israeli government not to engage in any intelligence operations in the U.S. Israel is days away from a general election. International mobile subscribers' identity catchers, informally known as stingrays, were reportedly found near the presidential residence and by other sensitive sites across Washington, D.C. These devices act like mobile phone towers, tricking phones into sending their location, identity information, and even call contents and data usage. One of the former officials who spoke anonymously to a media outlet said that stingrays were likely designed to spy on President Trump. He said it is not clear if they succeeded. FBI counterintelligence agents conducted analysis to find out where they came from. And that's all for today for news from around the world. But before we go, here's a recap of the headlines. 50 dies in train derailment in Congo. India strips 1.9 people in Assam state of citizenship. Hurricane Dorian loss estimates some $1.6 billion. Huawei's chief offers 5G know-how to Western firm. And Israel's prime minister denies the country is spying on the U.S. Thank you for watching. I am Whitney Prasad. Back to you, Samuel.
Thanks, Whitney. And now for a look at what's happening in sports with Samuel Suknandon.
Thanks, Kingsley. In local football, the action continues in the West Demerara leg of the GFF Namilco Thunderbolt Flower Power on the 17 Intra-Association League this weekend with 3 matches at the Denamstel Community Centre ground. Beginning Friday, September 6 from 1600 hours, there will be a square-off between the Wales Football Club and Pordroin FC. On Sunday, there will be 2 matches being played where Eagles Football Club of Stewartville will take on Wales FC from 1000 hours. The second and final match of the day will see home team Denamstel go against Hurry AT from 1200 hours. And in CPL news, having chased a hero CPL record of 242 on Tuesday night, the Patriots were given a humbling moment by Barbados Tridents on Wednesday. While Jamaica Tallowers had been unable to defend 241 for 24 hours earlier, 186 for 2 proved enough for the Tridents to run out 18-run winners. The Patriots second confident of another victory, but they were immediately placed on the back foot in their run chase by Trident skipper Jason Holder. He removed Devon Thomas with the very first ball, and later in the same over had Evan Lewis skying a catch to cover in the same over. Laurie Evans made a classy 64 from 41 with boundaries all round the ground. But nobody else was able to stay with him and score at the required rate. The Tridents were indebted to an explosive late injection, being tied down themselves for much of their innings. On the ground where a record-breaking 37 sixes were struck the night before, the Tridents didn't clear the ropes until Johnson Charles picked up a length ball up off his pads over the leg side of Braithwaite. It was Dominic, though, who was most responsible for lifting the Tridents to what would prove a match-winning total, smashing an unbeaten 43 from just 18 and striking the ball noticeably cleaner than his teammates. He sent 4 balls sailing way over the ropes with 73 runs coming from the final 6 overs when the South African veteran was at the crease. Turning now to international football, Cristiano Ronaldo edged closer to the all-time international goals record with 4 more in Portugal's Euro 2020 qualifying victory over Lithuania. The evergreen 34-year-old scored a first-half penalty and a second-half hat-trick to take his tally for his country to 93, just 16 behind Iranian legend Ali Day's total of 109. Portugal's 5-1 win moved the reigning European champion up into the second automatic qualifying spot in Group B, 5 points behind leader Ukraine. Since turning 31, Ronaldo has scored 38 goals in 37 games for his country compared to the 55 goals in 123 games prior to his 31st birthday. It was also the Portuguese talisman's 8th international hat-trick, 6 of which have come since he turned 31, while Lithuania in the 40th different country Ronaldo has found the net against. And that has brought us to the end of today's sport. Do join us tomorrow for the next edition of our Sportcast.
Welcome back, and that has brought us to the end of today's news. Before you go, here's a recap of our major headlines. Jack Dio calls for international presence at GCOM in light of delays. Felix says government still trying to end illegal departure of Haitians. Over 8,000 lots to be handed over to local authorities by CHNPA. Region 2 communities to get access to internet soon, Telecommunication Minister says. And CGIA's boarding bridges temporarily suspended. Thank you for watching Globespan 24/7 News. On behalf of myself, Shakima Day, and the news and technical team, until next time, do have a great evening.